So Endeavor is currently trending worldwide for good reason if you have watched the finale of My Hero Academia Season 4, and if you would have told me upon starting Season 4 as a manga reader that we would get to see High End versus Endeavor, I wouldn't have believed you. I honestly figured that Season 4 would be ending around maybe the introduction of the top 10 heroes, seeing Endeavor as number 1, and seeing him tell the entire world, like, just watch me. I figured that's where Season 4 was going to end, and I think many can agree with me, that's where we assumed this season would end. But no, that was not the case. We actually had the finale focus on Endeavor versus High End, and it is honestly one of the best finales of the entirety of this series, and also one of the best episodes of the series to date. Now, I know I say that a lot, but the reason why is because Studio Bones is always setting the bar higher and higher and higher. Usually when the team at Studio Bones, like everybody that's working on these episodes, etc., wants to go in and make a scene really count, they make a scene count. And you could clearly see just how much passion was really just pressed into this finale. And honestly, my reaction when the episode concluded, I was like, woo! Like, I was just happy. Like, yo, it was honestly, I had so many emotions while watching this, to tearing up, to just being hyped as hell, like holy crap, to just being stunned by the beauty of the animation. There was so much emotion, raw emotion that I had while watching this episode, and man, I didn't expect to have a finale end off on such an epic way, and wow, okay, so let's just get right into it. So, I think anyone that isn't a manga reader at this point, and actually, you know what, I take that back, even manga readers at this point are probably like, is it okay to like Endeavor? I mean, when you look at Endeavor as a character, everything that we know of him since the very beginning of the story, Endeavor is kind of scummy. He is. What he did to his family is definitely unforgivable. He is someone that is an outright scumbag for what he did to his wife, what he did to his kids, etc. He's not a good man by any means, what we've seen him do. But at the same time, we do know for a fact that he is a good hero. He is good at his job. We've seen it in Season 2, we've seen it in Season 3. He is definitely good at his job. And this episode clarifies once again, he is definitely very good at being a hero. Even if he isn't good necessarily with the hero mask, off, he is definitely a good hero. You can see that there has been a definite, change in Endeavor's character. He's slowly been shifting as a person since All Might's conclusion with All for One, which makes perfect sense, because if you remember that amazing scene between, All Might and All for One, and when Endeavor was looking at All Might, he looked at a broken man's back that was somehow still holding up Hero Society as a symbol, and he's like, I've been trying to fight to get to where this man is, and I'm just nowhere near him. I'm miles apart. And he even talks about how he despaired, he was upset, which kind of gets into his emotion he had, in, what he did to his family. Why he pushed the Todoroki family so far was because he wanted them to be able to one day be the symbol that is All Might, because when All Might is finally gone, there will be no one that will be able to really replace him. He realized that instantly looking upon All Might's back, and he was scared about that fact, and it kind of gets into the detail of why Endeavor was such a scumbag to his family, is because even though, yes, it's not right what he did, the reason why he did what he did was because it wasn't just about strength and power. He does admit at one point it was, but it's much more than that. He admits now that it's about being able to be a symbol, being able to hold up the society that they live in, and not allow people to, fear and be in terror, scream in terror, run away, etc. They will feel like they're safe and at peace. And that is obviously what he's trying to do, and technically what he did to his family, what he was trying to do as well. So there is definitely a lot of things to pull from Endeavor's character from everything we have seen thus far. And this episode kind of clarifies that, gives us so much character development and characterization to Endeavor, and kind of what he has fought for and what he is now fighting for. And it is great to see just Endeavor as a character, someone that obviously many are looking at with just really staring at him, seeing what type of scumbag scumbag move he will do, and noticing that he actually did something very heroic and honestly emotional. I mean, what he did, honestly, he pulled an All Might, and he didn't do it for fame or popularity. He did it because he understood the weight of his situation, which gets into the conversation he had with All Might earlier on in this season when he was talking to All Might, what does it mean to be a symbol and all that, the symbol of peace. He was asking All Might, and All Might's like, look, you don't have to be me. You're never going to be me. You're a completely different person. You know, the world right now needs a different symbol, a different answer and all that. They don't need a symbol of peace. And when you look at Endeavor, you don't necessarily see someone that could be like symbol of peace, like All Might, happy-go-lucky, etc. You look at someone that's very strong, someone that holds up standing and will never falter. You kind of look at Endeavor as like a symbol of strength or a symbol of power. That's kind of what you see from his character, and it definitely holds up. He is definitely a different entity altogether, and he has to let society know that even though All Might is gone, you know, it's not, hope is not all lost. There is still happiness in this world. It's not villains gonna take over and decimate everyone, and that's kind of what the fight was about. The entire fight between Endeavor and Hyen was super important. You could even see the despair of the public. You know, everybody was mentioning that this entire scene reminds them of when All for One attacked the city, and, you know, All Might was standing against him, and then just the whole scene, everything, it was just a grim reminder of the loss of their symbol, and seeing someone that was just now crowned the #1 hero, Endeavor, you know, and like less than a day ago, and he has to go up against a creature that's pretty much like something that All Might would fight, obviously people start to despair. Can Endeavor do this? Because, you know, the public doesn't really have a good opinion on Endeavor. It was even clarified in the previous episode that Endeavor isn't really liked. He's only high up on the rankings because of just his clear rate, how much he saves people, what his agency does, etc. That's what really has gotten him up so high. His public approval rating isn't the highest as, let's say, Hawk's. So it's just incredible to see just Endeavor not fall, because if he would have fell, then the whole crumbling of society would have gotten much worse, because it's already in a bad state, and we've already seen many grim looks at this because of what happened with Overhaul, and now we see that if Endeavor would have lost, the public easily would have been up and panicked, there would have been riots, there would have been anarchy, it would have just been outright awful. So Endeavor had that weight, that pressure on him, and he understands this weight now that, you know, All Might himself has been carrying on his shoulders for so long. And just seeing the conclusion of that fight when he actually radiates like a giant star, and he starts falling from the sky, and he's like, you know, plus ultra, and he lands on the ground, and he gets up, and he does the All Might pose, that was to reassure everyone that a new symbol is here. Now the question is, how damaged is Endeavor? Is he someone that can ever fight again? Is this the end of Endeavor's reign as the #1 hero? After a day of being #1, is this the finale of him? For instance, he's so injured that he's going to die, or is he going to have to retire? There's a lot of questions you have, but whatever it may be, the point is that Endeavor proved to the public that even though All Might is gone, there will still be heroes to take up the mantle and try to save the day. Even if they might not be as strong as All Might, there will be heroes that will try to prove themselves and stand up against the forces of darkness. So it's a great episode. There's a lot of symbolic themes throughout this finale of My Hero Academia, and I think that the way Horikoshi Sensei, but also Studio Bones, captured just the emotion of the public panic to what Endeavor was fighting for, to Hawks' reaction, everybody's reaction to the, you know, Shoto Todoroki looking at his father and how he could potentially die. There's just so many things about this episode that really just build up that atmosphere for when Endeavor actually comes out on top and has a victory. Let's get into the actual details of the fight. Since I kind of talked about the symbolic nature of it, I want to talk about the details and why this was really ridiculous and honestly very impressive. So we know for a fact that the Nomus are bioengineered by All for One. We don't know exactly where this high-end came from, we don't know how it got made, but whatever the case may be, we do know that these Nomus were definitely made to fight someone on the power of All Might. We know for a fact. We saw the Nomu at the end of Season 1 straight up was able to tank All Might himself, which is ridiculous in of itself. So, because of that fact, we know that this Nomu is probably on the realm of that, or even beyond what All Might fought, because this creature was capable of regeneration on the same level as the Nomu that All Might fought, but also the creature was able to actually have multiple different quirks to be able to hover, fly, it was able to have insane speed, power, it was very similar, like I said, to the Nomu All Might fought, but But on top of all of that, this Nomu was capable of speech, thinking. It wasn't necessarily dumb. It wasn't just a machine. It was something that was actually able to evolve and react to different situations. And even if its motive was very simplistic, for instance, it just wanted to defeat the strongest, it doesn't change the fact, though, that it was capable of thinking and summoning out minions of Nomus, regular different, like, default Nomus to hold people back for he could fight Endeavor. It shows that these Nomus are getting a lot more dangerous. And so when you really look at the fight, like, what Endeavor was up against, it was honestly an All Might level opponent. It was like an opponent that All Might himself would have to be brought in to defeat. That is just how strong this high-end really was when you think about it. It does have its weaknesses, however, because if the head got damaged, it was done, but it does not change the fact, though, that it was able to actually outlast the damage of what Endeavor was doing with the flames. Endeavor literally had to go way beyond into, like, the atmosphere and just light up like a giant star just to be able to get rid of that Nomu. And if you remember what All Might did in Season 1, he was able to punch the Nomu so much that the Nomu's regeneration kind of couldn't keep up. But it's clear that Endeavor's damage was definitely a lot higher than All Might's at that time, and even with all that damage Endeavor was doing, it still was not getting rid of that Nomu. So it just puts in perspective on just how unbalanced this fight really was, and Endeavor really had to give it his all. Like, he legitimately gave everything he had. He went over 100%. He gave 150%. He went plus ultra, obviously. And if it wasn't for him literally just letting his body shatter and break, he wouldn't have been able to defeat this opponent. But that is also very scary to think about, because for this Nomu to be introduced, this is just one Nomu. If there is more Nomus like this, there is just no way these heroes are going to be able to stand up against them, because one of these Nomus was able just to decimate Endeavor like that. Imagine if there was like 10, 15 of these high-ends going up against, you know, the heroes. There's just no way. I mean, it took literally the number 1 and number 2 hero to bring one of these down, and even then it was almost not enough. So it's just like, holy crap, you know, Izuku really needs to learn his 100%. He needs to be able to get up in strength to be able to fight, because if he doesn't, it's going to be relatively bad. So yeah, it just, I wanted to point that out with the fight. There was definitely a lot going on, which, by the way, speaking of the fight, let's talk about Endeavor. So, Endeavor's moves he used. This is definitely something that I think is really cool. He was able to use kind of fire, like laser beams that was able to be like Hell Spider, and he literally was able to cut buildings into like just little shards. He was able to shred the Nomu like nothing. It was honestly really crazy, just the precision with Endeavor's fire, but on top of that, how he actually is heating up his body, increasing the heat, and eventually he can overheat and his bodily functions will just pretty much shut down, which makes you wonder just how hot did he get when he radiated like a star. You know, is he done? Is he about to have, like, you know, some damage on the brain? Because FYI, you know, when it comes to, let's say, inflammation or fevers, etc., if your temperature gets too high, you know, you start to have brain damage. It's an actual scientific thing. So, when you think about it, with how hot Endeavor probably was getting, is he going to have everlasting brain damage? Is he going to have problems with his organs? You know, there's a lot of questions. Is he going to become a new All Might? For instance, All Might had a lot of damage with his organs. Is Endeavor going to have the exact same thing? And also, does Endeavor even still have his eye after what High End just did to him? So many questions, but it doesn't just stop there. Now, getting back into the details of just the emotional factor, we get a little bit more insight to the Todoroki family and just how they think of Endeavor, you know, the father or husband, and the mother that kind of is a big part of what happened to Shoto Todoroki, kind of says that he is trying his best. It seems like she hasn't forgiven him, but she isn't someone that is going to probably hold it against him for the rest of her life. It's clear that she has definitely changed somewhat. In some way, she doesn't view Endeavor as this evil entity. She's no longer as stressed, but she basically says something that is very interesting about these flowers in a vase. She says, you see these flowers? These flowers, I only told Endeavor one time when we first met that I liked these flowers. I never mentioned it ever again. I never said anything about these flowers. But these flowers are delivered to me. They're given to me. And what's interesting about this dialogue, if you did not catch it, it's pretty much saying that Endeavor is the one sending her these flowers, and he remembered what she liked. It wasn't just about getting with her for her quirk and creating, Shoto Todoroki with, half ice, half, fire. It wasn't really about that. In some point in his, in his heart, he does love his wife, or his once wife. He does love her, even if he isn't a good person. For him to be even able to remember those flowers, to be able to send it to her, it wasn't just about power and making, a child that is stronger than All Might. So that does give a little bit more characterization. She admits herself, she doesn't really know what he's thinking or how he really is or whatever, but she knows for a fact that he hasn't forgotten them. He hasn't forgotten his family. He isn't just looking towards the future trying to, forget about his past. He does constantly think about that all the time. And you can see that this fight was also more emotional than just like, proving to the public. It was also proving to his family that he wants his family to be proud of him. Even if he isn't someone to be proud of as a father figure, he wants his family to be proud at least that he's a hero that is doing his job to save the world. So it's interesting to think about, and just seeing, Shoto Todoroki even say when he was watching TV, like, prove to me, I am watching, Endeavor. It's great to see, because it's just like, I want to see what you can do. I want you to prove yourself to me if you really are worthy of being the #1 hero, and should I look up to you to actually be an example and try to be as strong as you or even surpass you. There's so many things about that. But also, this kind of explains why Endeavor as well is so fixated on Todoroki Shoto so much, because as we know, Shoto, he has the ability of using his ice side and his fire side. And when you really think about what was going on with Endeavor, it's very obvious that Shoto Todoroki has probably a very similar weakness of overheating his body. But thanks to his ice side, if he uses his ice a lot alongside of using fire, he could regulate his body temperature without, getting too hot or too cold, which could help him out to be able to endure against long-term fights. Basically, he would be able to surpass his father and do crazy things without having to worry about the repercussions to his own body. So this is kind of one of the big reasons why you could see Endeavor really wanted Shoto Todoroki to pass him, and why he was trying to train him so much is because it's very important for him to be a hero, to learn both sides and how to regulate fire and ice. So yeah, overall, it's a good episode. It's so good. Like, man, I'm in awe and shock just because of how brilliant this episode of My Hero Academia was. This finale, just seeing Endeavor actually prove himself is honestly just 10 out of 10 for me. But before I wrap up this video and this finale, there's a couple things to talk about. Actually, 3 more things. One thing is to talk about Hawks. Hawks has finally got introduced into the anime. Now, I think many anime-onlys have probably seen his picture floating around here and there, because he's a pretty popular character. He's a very, very popular character, and I think many watching these past 2 episodes are going to be a huge fan of him because of what he did. He literally gave Endeavor wings to be able to fly into the sky like an Icarus and, bring down this Nomu. It's a really interesting dynamic between Hawks and Endeavor, and I think many are obviously going to be big fans of him. Anime-onlys are going to love his character, and the voice actor really does nail him perfectly for the role that he plays within this story. So, I just think that Hawks' introduction, it's amazing. Now, another one, too, we got Mirko that was introduced, which, best girl of the series, like, hands down, best girl of My Hero Academia. I'm just gonna be honest, if you think she's not, you're wrong. Just being truthful. But, anyways, jokes aside, though, let's talk about the after credit scene. So there was an interesting after credit scene, and I'm not gonna get too much into detail on that because spoilers, but it was a very weird scene, I think, for anyone that saw it for the first time, because Izuku is having a dream, and then he sees all of the previous users of One for All. It's very obvious they're the previous users, but he has this black shadow all over him. He has it not on his fingers or his hand, and he doesn't have it on the top of his face, which makes it very weird. Like, what is going on here? Why is he seeing this? What is this? Is it just a dream? Is someone forcing him to see this? Or what is really going on? But whatever the case may be, though, whoever was talking to him within this dream, they touched his hand, and all of a sudden, he woke up, and then you could see that a part of the glass was shattered beside him. So it makes you wonder, what is going on there. Like, you know, what was that dream sequence? You know, what does this necessarily mean? There's a lot of questions, but I'm not going to get too deep into that because that's for the next season of My Hero Academia, which is a perfect segue into the final segment of this video. So, if you have not heard, or if you didn't see the finale of this episode, like the finale, then there is a Season 5 of My Hero Academia that has been announced, which is just all-around good news. I mean, it's obvious it was going to get a Season 5, okay? I think none of us are really shocked at that. The point is, though, it's just nice to see confirmation that it has been announced, it's in the works, but we don't know when it's coming out. Now, it could be already announced that it might be coming out, let's say, later this year in fall or something, but honestly, I kind of doubt it. I think because of just this last season, Season 4, and just how long it took for it to come out, I think My Hero Academia is probably going to start shifting into maybe a yearly cycle. Probably a season of 24 episodes or 25 episodes might come out every single year, and that's it, which I think is perfect, honestly, because even though it sucks waiting for the anime to return, I don't think having this series air every couple of months or whatever, every 1 or 2 seasons is actually good for the health of the anime, because if they do that, the anime is going to catch up to the manga. Obvious. And what that means is it's filler, which can just ruin the story, and nobody wants a Naruto Bleach situation. Nobody wants that whatsoever, so because of that, I think it's good to have a yearly cycle, because even though there's definitely enough content to make Season 5 right now, it's not a good idea because, you know, if they make Season 5, let's say in summer or fall, there will not be enough content to make a Season 6 for a long while, so putting this series on a yearly cycle I think is probably the best move, so that's my 2 cents. It probably will be a while until we actually see My Hero Academia return, unless we have information that's already out. But with that, though, I'm going to leave it at that. I love you guys. It's been fun talking about My Hero Academia. At least I still have the manga, but I feel bad for anime-onlys that are going to be waiting. But I'll tell you what, the next season, if you think this season's already crazy with all the trending, oh, you haven't seen nothing yet. The next season is going to be trending every time a new episode comes out. There's no doubt about that in my mind, because of just how much this series has already been trending. But okay, I love you guys. Be safe, stay healthy, and if you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like, and if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below, and with that, Chibi out.